Yay, it says I'm live. Hopefully you guys can hear me properly. A little bit disheveled today. It is kind of slowed down with the snow outside. You actually can't even see it at all, so that was a big fail. Anyways, hopefully that you are doing well. David, I'm wearing the shirt that you got me for Christmas. I heard cows, and it also says Queen on the back. Let me switch this over to live chat so I can see your messages. All right. Can you guys hear me? Oh, my computer's broken. Okay. So, yesterday, during my Sabbath fast, I was reading from the Gospel of the Holy 12. Hey, Kyle. And I wanted to share some of it with you, particularly the story regarding two separate stories. Yay, David says we can hear you. Perfect. Okay. So two specific times, most people already have heard the story of Christ cleansing the temple for you. Okay. So this is from lection 71 of the Gospel of the Holy 12. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Jesus, I'm just going to call him Christ because I don't really play the name game anymore. When I first woke up and started to get into the Torah, I was one of those that would go in and fight and be like, Jesus wasn't his name. Like the other prophets in the Old Testament, like Jeremiah, have like Yah's name in it. And the whole concept of like I come in the Father's name, so it's like Yahuwah, Yahshua, Yahushua, whatever you want to, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, I used to fight about that stuff, but I think it's way more important to actually get his message and his like person, who he is, his character, more than squabbling over what his name is. And I think that he would agree with me that it's definitely a bigger problem that these people think that he eats the flesh of innocence. Hey, cool, how's it going? Glad to be here. I'm glad that you are here as well. David D says I look stunning. Oh, thank you. And thank you again for the shirt and the cow hugging therapy. I'm still reeling from that. Okay, so let me get back into this. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Christ went up again from Bethany into Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of 7 cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and loosed the sheep and the oxen and the doves, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. And he said to them, take these things hence, make not my Father's house a house of merchandise. Is it not written, my house is a house of prayer for all nations? But ye have made it a den of thieves, and filled it with all manner of abominations. And he would not suffer that any man should carry any vessel of blood through the temple, or that any animal should be slain. So that was really cool. So that happened like before the Passover. And then there's another story that, so the crucifixion happens through here, the resurrection. The same day at the time of sacrifice in the temple, this is lection 86, there appeared among the dealers in beasts and in birds one clothed in white raiment, bright as light, and in his hands a whip of 7 cords. Again, he had the seven in the last story, right? Before he was crucified. And at the sight of him, those who sold and bought fled in terror, and some of them fell as dead men. Like they literally were so shocked that they died. Like, I mean, you would be too if you were the one that had already gotten driven out of the temple before this guy died, and then he shows up again after you watch him get crucified, and now he's doing the same thing. And some of them fell as dead, for they remembered how, before his death, Christ had driven them away from the temple enclosure in like manner. And some declared that they had seen a spirit, and others that they had seen him who was crucified, and that he had risen from the dead. And the sacrifices ceased that day in the temple, for all were in fear, and none could be had to buy or sell, but rather they let their captives go free. And the priests and elders caused a report to be spread that they who had seen it were drunken and had seen nothing, But many affirmed that they had seen him with their own eyes and felt on their backs the scourge. But they were powerless to resist. For when some of the beholder among them put forth their hands, they could not seize the form which they beheld, nor grasp the whip which chastised them. That, I don't know about you, I'm getting super pumped over here because that is so cool. Like, they tried to reach out and grab him and they couldn't. Like, that's so cool. I really love this. Just as David D was talking in the comment section before, I went vegan around 2017. I think maybe, well, my ex recently told me that he thinks that it was like February 3rd or something, but I don't really know my vegan anniversary. I really wish that I did. But I was studying Passover, and those are the texts that I was led to. Because Passover is this ritual that you're supposed to observe forever and ever. That doesn't mean until Jesus comes, then you stop. It's like forever and ever means forever and ever, right? So these things should still be happening today if that's really what God commanded us to do. But as you can see in the Essene texts, Christ was completely against animal sacrifice. And actually in the teaching of the Last Supper, this is lection 75, Iscariot said unto him, Master, behold the unleavened bread and the mingled wine and the oil and herbs. But where is the lamb that Moses commanded? For Judas had bought the lamb, but Christ had forbidden that it should be killed. And John spake in the Spirit, saying, Behold the Lamb of God, the good shepherd, which giveth his life for the sheep, right? A good shepherd doesn't kill their sheep. They take care of their sheep. They protect their sheep. If one of their sheep wanders off and gets stuck or whatever, he will go out and get that sheep and bring it back into the fold. And it's not because he's going to bring it back to kill them. It's because he's a good shepherd. He's going to keep them safe. Judas was troubled at these words, for he knew that he should betray him. And again Judas said, Master, is it not written in the law that a lamb must be slain for the Passover within the gates? And Christ said, If I am lifted up on the cross, then indeed shall the lamb be slain. But woe unto him whom it is delivered into the hands of the slayers. It will be better for him if he had not been born. Verily I say unto you, for this end have I come into the world, that I may put away all blood offerings, and the eating of the flesh of the beasts and the birds that are slain by men. In the beginning God gave to all the fruits of the trees and the seeds and the herbs for food. But those who loved themselves more than God or their fellows, corrupted their ways and brought diseases into their bodies and filled the earth with lust and violence. Not by shedding innocent blood, therefore, but by living a righteous life shall you find the peace of God. So that's pretty clear. In the whole concept of shedding innocent blood to become righteous in the eyes of God, like once you get out of this religion, like I was born and raised in mainstream Christianity, so it's like plead the blood of Jesus, like cover me with your blood, all of this like blood cult teachings. Like now when I think of someone being covered in blood, I think of Scary Carrie, like that movie where she gets the blood dumped on her. Like that's not clean, that's not righteous, that's not pure, and it's definitely not white as snow. So I really definitely recommend this. I wouldn't say that there aren't corruptions in every text that we come across, especially the ones that are purification, because the powers that be have given us all of these texts. But when you read things with discernment, you can definitely, tell what is of God and what isn't if you are tuned into that, I guess. So yeah, hopefully you look into that. I might read a little bit more from that, but I just thought that was so cool to see that he went back to the temple where he'd already driven them out, and like people died. Like they were so shocked that they saw him. Okay. Cole said, not sure if this is the case for others, but my iPad Facebook app is not letting me to chat publicly. I'm not really sure. The Facebook app or the YouTube app? Aspect, how's it going? I actually have been a little bit late today because the roads are really bad, and I didn't have, there's only 2 tables in this building that have plugs, so I should have gone somewhere else, but yeah, anyways. David D says Jesus showed up and terrified them to death in post-crucifixion spiritual form. Very interesting. Isn't that really cool? I know. I got the chills reading it. So, Bell Radio, he was against animal sacrifice by general principle, but especially at the temple. Exactly. It's like the temple should be holy, right? Seems to not work on the browser version, also on the iPad. I'm not sure. Cool. Maybe you need like an update or something. Sometimes the like Facebook won't be working properly until you update it. So I'm not sure. I'm not streaming through Facebook, so that's why I wasn't sure what your comment earlier was, because you said the Facebook app. David D says Satan and his inverts have infiltrated and corrupted every religion, every text. Yes, I completely agree. I'm planning on someday taking all of my favorite scriptures from all of these texts, including the Bible and the Gita and other Egyptian writings and all of these other ancient religions that have so much truth in them. I want to grab them all and put them into my own Bible, particularly. Probably wouldn't want to call it a Bible, but yeah. So yeah, some of the other books that I have here. This is the Essene Humane Gospel of Christ, and it also has the Essene Gospels of Peace in it. The Essene Humane Gospel of Christ, kind of like how Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are like different Gospels, and they have the same stories in it. That's kind of how the Essene Humane Gospel of Christ and the Gospel of the Holy 12 are. A lot of the same overlapping stories. And the stories that you find in the Bible, right? Like in this text, the Christ feeds. Here we go. Oh wait, that's wrong number. Okay. Let's see. One time he feeds them, the masses, the feeding of the 5,000 with 6 loaves and 7 clusters of grapes. It's not so cool, the whole concept of communion. Like, I just really love these stories. And as someone who never liked fish, the grapes in bread would have definitely been way more satisfying for me. So I'm super happy with these texts. So yeah, let me see here. It's pretty much the same story. When he had taken the 6 loaves and the 7 clusters of grapes, he looked up to heaven and blessed and brake the loaves and the grapes also, and gave them to his disciples to set before them, and they divided them among everyone. And they all ate until they were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments that were left. So 12 full baskets that were left over after feeding the 5,000 to satisfaction. Like, that's pretty impressive. What's also really cool, even in the Bible, the Christ basically doesn't ever put himself above others. He says that we are his brothers and sisters. We're also the children of God. And he said that you can do the things that I've done and even greater things. So this whole concept of like worshiping Christ, I guess, because I don't know. I do idolize, like, I'm trying to use the right words because it's a little bit of a sticky situation. Like, I do idolize the Essene Christ. Like, he is something that should be, he's a righteous man, and that should be acknowledged. And I aspire to be like that. So in some ways it is like an idol, but it's not supposed to be like you actually worship these entities, and Christ never like asked for worship or any of these things. He never exalted himself over other people. So yeah, the whole mainstream Christian basis really is, Christ is God, and this whole Trinity of Jesus went into the Garden of Gethsemane and prayed to himself like, Father, if it be your will, but if it be my will, like, it's just a confusing, like, hey, Father, it's me, you. Like, there's this meme that makes fun of the whole concept. The original Trinity is Father, Mother, and Child, like an actual family, and that is what makes the most sense. These headphones suck. Okay. Kale says no snow here, but we've got strange snow. Needle-looking flakes. Interesting. Unnatural, huh? Pin needle snow. What are they putting into it that I want? Chemtrails. Yeah, exactly. Kyle says, admire, adore, revere, venerate, and love. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Those are definitely better words than idolize, which is, don't have any idols. And that's one of the problems with this world, is that all these people are idolizing these Hollywood inverts, even in the Christian groups, the leaders are also Satanists, right? They're pretending that they are these, whatever denomination, whatever religion, whatever country, whatever, any group that you feel connected to, they have people that are, well, I shouldn't even say people, they have inverts that are there to, gatekeep and keep you under control. And it's with everything. So yeah, I don't notice. I lost my train of thought because I was trying to read what Stacy says. Do you think these inverts are hermaphrodites? I don't believe that they are hermaphrodites. A biological hermaphrodite, I think, I wanted to actually read the. I have a specific quote on this one, so let me just find it really quick. I've posted on this before in the transvestigation groups. Let me just try to find out where it is. Hopefully you guys are doing well, by the way. I always appreciate this time to come and chat with you and speak the truth of our reality. Kind of like, I think all of us desire community and to be around and connected to people that we believe the same things as and get along with. I've said before, I'm trying to make a community here in Mount Shasta, but it's way easier said than done because, well, multiple reasons really, but there's like this fake spiritualism and love and light, and they don't want to stand against degeneracy and evil and the things that I stand against. Okay, so here we go, Stacy. Let me read this. In reproductive biology, a hermaphrodite is an organism that has both kinds of reproductive organs, and can produce both gametes associated with male and female sexes. And then this other this link here basically says, it's from Schreier L., February 2017, The Varied Ways of Being Male and Female, and it says, of note, the otherwise well-studied insects, birds, and mammals are strikingly absent here, with not a single species among these groups showing hermaphroditism. So I don't believe that human hermaphrodites exist based off of this. They do try to mix male and female, but they don't actually have like both reproductive organs. They're not technically both. So yes. Stacey says, thank you for being a truther. It's hard to find real bio women. I definitely agree with that. I've tried to be like really upfront, constantly putting my biomarkers out there, because frankly, if I was not me, I would be like, show me your biomarkers. I don't trust anybody unless I can fully transvestigate them. Like, I don't follow any other truthers. I don't trust them. It sucks. There are some really like informative leaky faucets out there, because that's ultimately what they are. They're controlled opposition. They're leaky faucets that are there to draw us in and ultimately to give us their version of reality, to gatekeep, to keep us under their control. And so every truther subject, all these large groups and everything, like, it's constantly that you need to investigate them. It's kind of bizarre to me that some of these entities, like Mr. E, which kind of like it sounds, mystery, that's a common invert joke, like, oh, it's a mystery what you are. It's like, no, it's not a mystery what you are, because we have the eyes to see. We can clearly see that you're a clown, right? But for for many years, Mr. E was completely faceless, and all of these transvestigators promote and defend Mr. E. And I'm like, how are you going to sit there and defend this person when you've never even seen them? And then when they do put out a video that shows what they look like, A, they don't pass, and B, they're telling people to eat grasshoppers. They're literally promoting eating bugs. They're trying to say, oh, here you go, in the Bible it says that you can eat grasshoppers, that all of these things. And people still want to defend this clown. And there's many of them in the transvestigation community like that. There's many popular transvestigators. I'm like, how could you guys even trust these people when they have not shown you any of their biomarkers? They don't put out, like their body in comparison with the invert that they're trying to show you the difference. Unlike me, I'm the only one who has done that. Yet I'm the only one that gets attacked constantly. Why is that? I mean, I already know, but hopefully you will think about it and figure it out yourself. It's like the invert swarming effect is kind of where they'll all come in. That's not good. This is like the thing for my headphones. They'll come and try to tell you that this is not a phone. This is a trash can, and they'll get 100 of them to say it. That's a trash can, and if you think that this is a phone, not a trash can, then you're an idiot. They'll come and they'll do everything they can to try to convince you that this is not a phone, this is a trash can. And that's what they do with me. They're like taking all of my pictures. They'll take pictures that are out of, like, when I'm in the middle of doing something and like making a silly face or doing whatever, and they'll try to say their lies about me. So anyways, I'm going to get off this rant, but hopefully you have transvestigated me, because I've been way more than upfront with all of this stuff and put out way more than enough information to prove that I am who I say I am. Okay. Bob says, I've been on a strict vegan diet for the last 2 months. Yeah, that's so cool, which included declining Christmas turkey. Oh, I'm so proud of you. My motivation is following an intensive detox protocol, and it's working. That's really, really cool. There has been a major side benefit of losing body fat, likely for good. My goal is climbing to the top of Mount Shasta this summer. Oh, that's so cool. You'll definitely have to let me know when you're coming into town. I personally have not summited Mount Shasta yet. I have talked about it and thought about it, but I haven't done it. So I definitely want to do that someday, and that's really cool. I'm so proud of you, Bob. Kyle says, Bob, make sure you bring warm gear. Yes, it definitely is colder the farther up that you go, even during the summer. Mag isn't passable. That's a woman in Chinese Black 1974. Is a good one. Okay, I've not heard of this. The Chinese Black 1974 or whatever. But I definitely agree about Mag. There's also Poncho Pete. There's that Michelle XY, which is like, why would you even name yourself XY anyways, if you weren't a male? And then Michelle XY, I'm going to call it Michael, okay, takes the video that Mr. E made, literally holding grasshoppers in its hand, saying, this is good protein, you should eat it. The Bible says, chomp, 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 doing this on camera. And Michael XY makes a video saying, oh, Mr. E's not promoting eating bugs. Really? Again, it's not a trash can. It's not a phone. It's a trash can. They're not promoting eating bugs, as they say. This is a really good source of protein, and eat it. Really frustrating. I get really wound up about these things. I need to... Bob says, truth be told, intermittent fasting has been a big factor in my success. We all intrinsically know that when we have a net calorie deficit for the day. Definitely. That's really cool that you're doing intermittent fasting too. I myself want to get into more fasting. I've been doing in the dry fasting community. I try to do a fast every week for the Sabbath for spiritual reasons, but also for purification. We're supposed to have a healthy balance of feasting on fruit and fasting, and like a balance. Most people obviously are always in this constant state of feasting, and they're not even feasting on what God intended for us. So they're constantly putting junk in their bodies, and their bodies never have any time to recuperate. It's like you need that time of fasting to let your body process all of this junk and get it out, especially when you're eating like flesh and stuff that takes longer to digest. some fruits digest in like less than a half an hour. Like your system is made to. These headphones are so terrible. Your system is made to like process things quickly, right? If you were an actual carnivore meant to eat meat, they have very short digestive tracts so that the body takes what it needs and passes it through really quickly. That flesh isn't sitting in their intestines like rotting, and it's disgusting. So yeah, there are many benefits to fasting, Bob, and I'm glad that you brought up intermittent fasting. People have had a lot of success on that, even with the standard American diet. But I would just put out in general a suggestion to get better at fasting, to be in better control of your diet. And I'm preaching to myself too, because most of us already know that, there's going to be a situation that the powers that be are planning where we go into a famine, and, they want us to be dependent on them and in their bread lines and begging them for food. If you are in control of your body and you are fasting and you know that you don't need to eat every day, you're going to be in a much more powerful position. You're going to say, screw you, I don't need your bread lines, like I'm fine. And personally, I'm going to go eat grass before I come into your bread lines or try to eat flesh or any of that, because I don't trust them. We really shouldn't trust our enemies with anything. It's easier said than done, because they literally control everything. They control the food distribution. They control all of these things. So if you can find local farmers that, grow their own fruits and vegetables, they're not using chemicals, especially not using manure. The whole concept of growing things in manure, disgusting. We're supposed to be gods and goddesses, divine beings, not eating things that are grown in poop. Like, that's so gross. And humans have been convinced to do it. Sorry about this. This is my first time using these headphones and actually talking, and they keep like coming out of my ears. So I do know that Bluetooth headphones are bad for us. I went to replace my old wired headphones, and they're not selling the same kind anymore. So alas, we have to deal with what we have. So anyways, Stacy says, I find it hard to be vegan. It definitely can be harder for some than others. I personally, when I read the Essene text, it was kind of pretty cut and dry about, like, you can't be righteous, you can't touch holy things or know the mysteries of the kingdom if your mouth is defiled with flesh and your hands are stained with blood. It's like really clear to me that this is like a moral issue. And so for me, it was very easy just to go vegan overnight, because it's like, one of the things is I really want to be a mom someday, and the animal industry is like just based on raping mothers pregnant to have them bear children, and then separating them from their children and abusing their children, raping, murder. Like, this whole separation of mothers and children, for me, like, that's not okay. And I can't have that kind of karma that might come my way someday. So for me, it's just like, we're done with this. But I do understand that other people struggle more with it. There are so many different vegan alternatives to, like, hopefully make your own, right? But I know that homemade stuff is a lot harder. It's not as easy. But there's also, vegan alternatives to all of your favorite things already on the shelf. So, if you're already eating processed stuff, just switch over from the non-vegan processed junk to the vegan processed junk. It's like, if you're going to eat junk, just make it vegan, right? Ideally, we should be fruitarian, but I'm saying that as someone who's not a fruitarian yet. It's really hard to stop consuming cooked foods and all of the, like, a bowl of spaghetti, like all of these comfort foods that realistically, once we understand, it's like this chemical, addiction to these things. There's parasites usually involved. It definitely, it's that knowledge is there, but still implementing it and cutting ourselves off from these things that we're addicted to, that we find comfort in, is definitely easier said than done. Kyle says, Bob, check out the site for vegan gear. Ooh, cool. SaveTheDuck.com. That's funny. Stacy says, I love fasting and praising God. Yeah, in the dry fasting community, one of the quotes, I actually don't know which quote it's in, so let me find it, but it basically says that unless you fast and pray, you won't be able to rid yourselves of Satan and all of his diseases. We consent to diseases. The human body is a self-healing machine, and if we're consuming what God, our Creator, made for us to consume, this machine is going to work perfectly. It's going to be flawless. You're going to live there. Like, I can't wait to have a child, because my child's going to be extended breastfed and then only given raw herb and fruit bearing seed. Like, I want a child that is holy from the womb, that's raised the way that God intended. And I can't wait to see how different the growing process is. All of these kids these days, well, I should say the majority, because there are some vegetarian and vegans out there. But the animal products, the animals that you are consuming are given hormones. They're bred in selectively bred as well. I should actually show you this picture of the two different cows if I have it on here. When I went to the cow hugging place that David bought for me, there was a natural cow that was made by God, and then there was a not genetically modified. There's a difference between genetically modified and selective breeding, like breeding for a certain thing and actually using like transgenic elements in like a genetics lab, which is what Monsanto does. We already kind of talked about how evolution isn't possible because of DNA being self-healing, and how genetic engineers have to go in and break the DNA to modify it. And if they don't put it under selective antibiotic selective pressure, those transgenic elements are spat out within 3 passages in vitro as the DNA tries to heal itself. So they constantly have to put out new seeds to keep their modifications relevant. But my point is that there's a difference between transgenic elements in and selective breeding. Anyways, I might not have the picture, but my point is that there were these two different cows, and the size difference between these two was just absolutely mind-blowing. I can't even really describe it, because I'll have to post a picture when I get home. But yeah, it's mind-blowing how they have selectively bred these cows to become as big as possible, as quickly as possible, right? Because it's all about money. Well, technically, it's two different things, right? The industry itself is all about money, right? This whole cutting corners for capitalism, essentially. But the powers that be aren't doing this for money. People want to say, "Oh, why are they lying about the shape of the earth for money?" It's like, they print money. They're not in this for money. They're in it for your soul. They want to corrupt you. They want to degrade you. They want to turn you into a clown. So yeah, the animals in the industry my whole point was that they are given hormones to get as big as possible, as quickly as possible. And when your children are eating them, that's going to affect your children. Their children are going into puberty how much earlier now than they were back in the day. Like, these things are definitely linked, and it's extremely unhealthy. So I really can't wait to see like how my child is going to progress and grow when they're not given these hormones that are going to, have those impacts on them. Aspect 761 says, so when is the next chess simul? I actually have to talk to Matt. He's the one that is going to be doing the simul, and he still has a lot of stuff going on in his personal life, so I don't want to put extra pressure on him, and I definitely don't want to put him in a situation where there's a lot of money on the line and he's not ready for it. So yeah, I definitely have confidence in him, but chess, it's like you kind of need to be in the mindset where you're focused on it and you don't have like all of these other distractions. So right now I don't actually have a chess simul on the calendar. My next event will either be a vegan meetup or the full moon celebrations on Mount Shasta in the winter. Or in the summer, sorry. I'm hoping to get some vegan meetups going around here, but it's way easier said than done because most of the vegans align on the liberal side of things. I don't claim to be liberal or conservative. It's like two sides of the same coin, two wings of the same bird that are working together against us. But I definitely have more conservative leaning views. I'm pro-life. That's why I'm vegan. Like, I don't understand how you can claim to be pro-life while your daily actions, every meal, you're killing babies too. It's like, make the connection. They're babies. Babies deserve our protection. If that little cow could say that it doesn't want to die for you to have a cheeseburger, it would. Instead, they just moo. They cry out. They do. Like, anyways, Kyle says my 5 day fast was decent. It was challenging on day 3, but I pushed through. I'm really happy that you did 5 days. That's really impressive. Kind of, there are, like he was saying, challenging on day 3. Sometimes you'll have these really challenging, like the first few days or something, and then there's like your body kind of gets used to it, and you get into this fasted state, and you actually have energy and you feel a lot better. But yeah, Kyle says, Stacy, it's harder being an animal getting its head chopped off while fully conscious. Oh man, all of the ways that they kill animals and like grinding up baby chicks. And I saw a video of this cow that had to be like shot multiple times because it just wouldn't go down, and like it's so evil. Stacy says, I know you would be a good mother. Nutrition is very important in a child's health. I definitely agree with that. Children are a blank slate, as I've said before. It's like your baby isn't coming out with these like addictions to cheese, addiction to meat, like all of these things. They get what you give them. So if you just start them off right and give them this healthy relationship with food. I was actually talking to my mom last week, and I'm like, I don't have a healthy relationship with food. Growing up, we had access. I was very, I say blessed, because we had access to all this. Like, we never went without. We always had a surplus of food in the house. Like, my parents worked really hard to make sure that we had what we need and more. So I am really grateful for that. But at the same time, it's like having so much really made me overindulge and misuse food. When you're bored, when you're emotional, all these things that other people that are in situations that are poverty situations, they don't have those issues because they didn't have that available to them. So it's really important for me that my children like have a healthier relationship with food than I do, and understand, fasting and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not going to be saying, okay, little David, you're 3 years old now. It's time to fast. It's like, that's not how I'm going to be. But, children model what their parents do. So future husband, you better start working on fasting, because my children are definitely going to see mom and dad fasting together. Hey Faith, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I am doing well, and hope you are too. Thank you says 5 days of fasting is very impressive. I've done over a week, but have been struggling more with recent fasts. Me too. Kyle said, David, eventually I'd like to be able to do a 2-week water fast. That's really cool. Yeah. Stacy says, I've heard you're supposed to eat according to your blood type. Blood type, I don't believe in blood-based blood type diets. If you think about it, do you really think that God designed us to go and prick ourselves to test our blood to know what to eat? Animals in other species, they have species-based diets. So I think that's the way to go, especially because for blood-based diets, they'll say O negatives have to eat flesh. I've temporarily been in some O negative groups. I actually got kicked out because I basically, went in with a vegan mindset and was like trying to see who's gone vegan in here, and people like, you can't go vegan, like, whoa there, cowboy, calm down. But then there's other O negatives that say, I went vegan and I had this great spiritual experience and spiritual enlightenment and all this stuff. So I don't believe that any blood types are anti-vegan. There are differences between the blood types when the fallen ones, the jinn, ultimately shapeshifted into human form. Genesis talks about this, the Book of Enoch. They created these giants, but their offspring don't have the same blood type as God's original creation. That's where this O negative comes from. And that's not to say that O negatives are damned or any of this stuff. We do need to just acknowledge the fact that like God's creation has trouble reproducing with O negatives. So, if we were the same species, we wouldn't have trouble reproducing. There wouldn't be this, you need to take, these antibodies or whatever so that your child, your body doesn't reject your child. Like, that's not normal. That's not natural. God didn't mean for us to have to like take medicines of any kind so that our child wouldn't, like, our bodies wouldn't turn against each other. Like, there's supposed to be this, harmonic, not even a word, relationship with a mother and their child. So yeah. Bob says, I ate vegan cheese recently for my first time after discovering the BioLife brand at a nearby grocery store. It tasted good, and I remain amazed at what it can be made, starting with cashews. Bob, you have to come out to one of my full moon celebrations that is happening now, because a few years ago, I wasn't making all of the stuff I am now. I at least have 2 different cheeses on my buffet that are homemade. And yeah, sometimes even 3. So you should definitely come out to one of my events and taste my food. I used to say I could never go vegan because I could never give up cheese. I eat so much vegan cheese, which really I shouldn't really be proud of. But the cheese demon is not lacking. You can go vegan and still have cheese that doesn't come from cow rape. David says, thanks, Kyle. I need to find the will to do longer fasts, but it's a struggle as I have a physically demanding job. Kyle says, Anana, are those Bluetooth earbuds? Yeah, they are. I was explaining earlier, I went to the store to replace the white ones that were not working last week, and they didn't have the kind that I need. They're only making the kind that like fits into the iPhone jack thing. So I had to get these, and they're horrible because they keep falling out of my ears. So anyways. David says, Bob, I love cashew-based cheeses. There are so many, too. Like, you can make pretty much any single type of cheese. You just need the right spices and other ingredients to add to it. So, Aspect 761 says, I love cashews and pistachio nuts. Okay. I can't really say I'm a big pistachio eater. So I don't really know if I like them or not. I tend to be a little bit of a picky eater. I know I need to get better about that and eating more diverse things. But at the same time, there are like some of the scriptures that basically say, find 1 or 2 things that you're satisfied with and just stick to very simple things, as opposed to all the complexities with the processed foods and like even a salad. Like, Kyle, where are you? Fruits and vegetables, there are some that are not supposed to be combined. Like, your body has to process all of these things. They have different digestion speeds and stuff. So there's different food pairings that, are known because of this. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve weren't making salads. They were just frolicking around eating like the fruit as it was, right? So yeah. I definitely want to become more of a purist in my food eating, but easier said than done. Aspect 761 says pistachio nuts have aphrodisiac properties. I know from experience. Ooh, okay. Well, if I ever need to have aphrodisiac properties in my life, then I will take that into consideration. That's funny. The Clementine homilies and recognitions are also really interesting. I'm not really sure which one has the teachings. Oh, right here. It basically says that the demons will find whatever temptation is best for every individual and get them to indulge in it. They, will give us these cravings. They'll make something, for instance, bone broth. When people fast, a lot of them will try to break their fast with bone broth. This whole concept of taking the bones of a baby and making a broth out of it, how do you not see how demonic that is? That's so evil. Like, even the powers, like these, like the most evil creatures that you can find, like snakes and stuff, they don't do this. It's just the darkest of them that do. But the demons will give these people a very big high when they come back. You go through this fasting purification, and then the first thing that you consume is this soup that's made from baby bones. and you'll get a high from it, and it's demonic, right? So these demons will integrate themselves with us to where we don't even know the difference between them and our feelings, and that's one of the reasons that people are so addicted to the foods that they are eating. And the Clementine, this is a Clementine homilies. It basically says, but the reasons why the demons delight in entering into men's bodies is this: being spirits and having desires after meat and drink and sexual pleasures, but not being able to partake of these by reason of their being spirits and wanting organs fitting for their enjoyment, they enter into the bodies of men in order that, getting organs to minister to them, they may obtain the things that they wish, whether it be meat by means of men's teeth or sexual pleasure by means of men's members. Hence, in order to the putting of demons to flight, the most useful help is abstinence and fasting and suffering of affliction. For if they enter into men's bodies for the sake of sharing pleasures, it is manifest that they are put to flight by suffering. Starve them out. Stop giving them what they want and they'll leave. It's definitely easier said than done, because once you start on this battle, the demons know that it's a fight and they're going to fight you back. They're going to try to stay. They're going kicking and screaming. They're not just like, oh, all right, you want to stop doing whatever evil is that you've been doing your whole life. They're not going to be like, all right, bye, have fun being pure. They're going to be like, no, we're going to dig our claws in even more. So yeah, it's really quite interesting to read those teachings. So Kyle says, yeah, don't eat melon. Fruit segregation. Don't eat melons in the same setting with any other fruits. Yes. He says, hey, Queen, I'm doing well. I'm doing an herbalism course. Oh, that's so cool. As I feel very connected with herbs. My lecturer keeps bashing vegans when we look at the diet aspect. It's so frustrating. Is that something online, or is that in person? That's really cool that you're taking an herbalism course. You'll have to share some of your wisdom with us in the future. It's almost some sort of projection because he's extremely overweight. Yes. Well, isn't it kind of funny how non-vegans want to point at vegans being so unhealthy when, the hospitals, do you really think that they're full of vegans? They're full of people that eat flesh, that eat dairy, that consume eggs. Like, they're the ones that are keeping the big pharma in existence, realistically. And yeah, they'll be like, oh, if you go vegan, you'll get cavities and blah, blah, blah. It's like as if people that are on the standard American diet don't have cavities, really? Like, you think that that's an actual point? That's not a thing. It's not a valid argument. So yeah, it's kind of funny, funny, not ha-ha, but funny, silly, stupid, really, how they want to use the same thing, like, oh, if you're vegan, you got to take a bunch of vitamins and supplements. First of all, I don't take vitamins and supplements. Second of all, I know a lot of non-vegans that take vitamins and supplements. So where's the righteous judgment, Everyone deep inside knows that eating animals, killing an animal, it's not okay. It's not morally proper. And, we just have to get through all of these layers of programming to figure that out. It's really sad how, children, they'll have these cute little books of these furry little friends, right? The animals, and then they're taught to eat the animals. That's programming. Like, if you were here holding, a plate of fruit and a plate of fresh flesh, have experience in this manner. I was with a friend and her child, and she brought over a plate of flesh. Like, literally, it was disgusting. Like, I can't even tell. Like, how can you even? I don't know. But I had a plate of fruit, and the child chose the plate of fruit. Like, obviously, they'll say, "Oh, well, that's because it's sweet and it's a dessert." Like, that's because that's what we're supposed to be eating. The child doesn't want that disgusting flesh until they're programmed to do it. And if you tell them where that flesh comes from, they wouldn't want it, because children aren't evil. They're not as programmed. Like, they would be sad if they knew that little piggy was sliced up into bacon. So Aspect 761 says, Inanna, thanks for your comment about bottled water. Yes, Aspect 761 commented on one of my older videos where I had some of the Crystal Geyser water bottles that I was burying out at my at one of my vortex points here. And yeah, so basically saying that, bottled water wasn't good. And I definitely agree with that. The FDA requires that all bottled water is ozone treated. And that basically like kills the water. And for instance, the people at Crystal Geyser, they're only allowed to drink Crystal Geyser water in the factory. And it kills them over time. Like, it really just diminishes their life force energy. And also, as I said in the comments, if they consume it after it's been freshly bottled, it'll actually make them sick. Like, the bottle needs to sit around to have that ozone treatment, like sit around for a while before you can actually drink it again, or else it'll make you sick, which should be very telling. Cole says, hi, Faith. Check out the International School of the Healing Arts. The professor, Dr. Robert Morse, has more than 40 plus years of experience in detoxification. He's also fruitarian minded. I have seen, I think Dr. Morse is the one that basically says, if you have a tumor, then you want to grow it, then drink some dairy or something. Dairy and even eggs, they have two separate things, but they both have growth factors. Like an egg is the parts that are there to the building blocks of a baby bird, right? But milk specifically has growth hormones in it. It's made for even human milk, right? Like, we feed our baby and it has these hormones in it that will help that baby grow, right? When you're an adult, when you're consuming things that tell your body to grow, you're going to start growing fat. And it can also feed cancer. Like, cancer is uncontrolled cell growth, and ultimately we give ourselves these diseases. We consent to them by what we eat and what we do. And how many people just want a quick fix? They go into the doctor and they get like radiated, they get chemo, they get chopped up, and then they don't actually change their diet and their lifestyle, and then the cancer comes back. I am 100% against the medical industry. It's kind of interesting because I speak the truth about viruses and germ versus terrain theory, where both of them are partially true. First of all, viruses are all made in genetics labs. They don't exist in real, like in nature. They're not a natural creation. Someone actually has to go and gather these ingredients and put them together, like to make a virus. And they're not doing that for no reason. They periodically release these to get us sick, to give us the illusion of cold and flu season, to keep the old folk coming back for the flu shots, all these things. But your health is a mixture of both, right? Fundamentally, if your terrain is clean, it's going to fight off any diseases, any viruses, any cancer, anything. But if your terrain is dirty, then those germs, they are going to come in. They are going to cause problems. Like, it's kind of like a virus on your computer. Thinking that like your computer is detoxing because it has a virus is extremely unintelligent. Yet we have the majority of truthers trying to tell us that colds and flus are our bodies detoxing when they're not. But anyways, I've been accused of like promoting big pharma because I say that. I'm like, I tell people to run the opposite way of the medical industry. They have no idea what they're talking about. They're big pharma representatives, and they don't know anything about natural healing. Like, how much would that doctor even make if he told you to go purify your diet and then he never sees you again? I'm not saying that it's the doctors, that all doctors are evil, but they're definitely part of the system. There are some that are definitely evil. Some do want to help heal, but they're not given the right tools. They're not given the right knowledge and truth about the human body. They're taught to prescribe you pills, to slice and dice you, to take things out, to put things in. Like, they've got no clue. So run the opposite way of them. Fasting and fruit is really all you need to heal. Your body wants to heal itself. Your DNA, everything in it, God's design is so cool that it wants to heal itself. As soon as you cut yourself, your body goes into, healing mode to heal that thing. Every time that you put junk in, you're slowing down that healing process. And if you have years and years and years of junk built up because you just keep feasting and feasting on junk, then it's going to take you a lot longer to heal. But your body still does want to heal. So if you get in harmony with your body's processes and what you're supposed to eat, you're not going to have all of these issues, and all of the things from the past are going to start to heal. We all have sickness and disease and, various levels of jab. I gotta be careful with what I say so I don't get in trouble for medical misinformation. Poisons that came from all of us being jabbed, right? We have all of these things that our system needs to clear out, and fasting is the way to go. So, fasting and fruit. Kyle says putting water in plastic is horrible. I mostly drink water from glass. Yeah, it would be nice to have, like for my full moon celebrations, I do go and get the Crystal Geyser bottles, but I dump their water out and I put my fresh Mount Shasta water in. And unfortunately, the plastic is not good. But I definitely can't, I could take a bunch of glass bottles up there, but that's dangerous. They could get broken. And the amount of water that I could take would be less, because I've personally never really, I guess they probably do have gallon water bottles and stuff like that are glass, but that sounds like a horrible disaster waiting to happen. In the future, we definitely need to fix this. Hemp, for instance, can be made, all the plastic stuff that we have can be made with hemp, and it'll degrade faster and be way better for the earth. But, the powers that be don't want that. They want to make sure that humans are doing the worst practices. They are treating the animals the worst and everything the worst, so that we look like the worst species ever. And ultimately, they want to make God regret creating us and go back to a different species. For them, it would be preferably Jinn. They want, the whole Nibiru return thing. What was channeled to me is that Nibiru was the earth before humans were created, when the Jinn were here. Jinn are made out of smokeless fire, so the place would not look like this. It would be a lot more fiery. And yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about how this, the world stage could have changed, especially with different species. Center stage, you would have different environments and different wisdom that is gained. Like the Jinn world, this fiery species that is extremely intelligent, their world is definitely different than the world of humans, right? They didn't. This is us. Not made by us. This is influenced by them for us, but this is a human-based reality, right? I shouldn't say reality, because it's not that the reality herself is human-based, but humans are center stage, so the center stage is designed for humans at this point. David D says Crystal Geyser takes fresh Mount Shasta water and kills it with ozone. Exactly. Hey, the Israelite, how's it going? David says water is living. Yes, water is living. I think with the ozone treatment, it's I can't remember exactly what the process is, but yeah, the water goes from a living, healthy, fresh thing to completely dead with these elements in it that will actually make you sick if you drink it. So yeah. Aspect 761 says, I think tap water with a filter is the best option. My water comes straight from an underground source in Mount Shasta, so I don't do any filtering or anything. But if I lived in town or something where it was city water, I definitely would be seeking other options, especially after I think it was semi-recently they were saying that California, they're passing laws basically to be able for water companies to filter and clean wastewater and use that. Nasty. The whole concept of thinking that you're consuming sewage that's been filtered is really disgusting. Cole says the true Dr. Morse is vegan. That's awesome. David says aspects. Yes, I used to drink it too. Still have to sometimes, as ozone is better than fluoride. Sometimes we have to pick the lesser evil. Yeah. Definitely unfortunate. Aspect 761 says vegan makes the body alkaline. Cancer can't live in an alkaline environment. I definitely agree with that. The Israelite says, drink 7 fruits and veggies, pow, jumping from cloud to cloud, seeing miles beyond unlimited visibility. Yeah, I've actually read about people that are like raw vegan, and they'll be like, I actually had to eat something cooked because I was basically like, I was floating out of my body almost. Like the soul, like it's such an uplifting experience that they are like, I needed to eat something that was more grounding. I have not had that experience, but I definitely would love to. I think that doing what God intended for us to do by eating just fruits, it's going to make not only our vibration lighter and more powerful, but it's also going to help change the world around us in a lot better way. The Christ in these stories in the Essene text, it's like the animals just love him. Like a lion came up to him and like sat at his feet, like everything was in peace. They could tell like who he was because of like his vibration, his aura, his character, without even like having to have an actual experience where yeah, kind of hard to explain. But I have deer that come into my yard, and I'm like, what can I do to be friends with them? And ultimately, like, these animals are afraid of humans in general, so they need help to rebuild the trust between us, and raising our vibration will definitely help with that. So Aspect says, David, unfortunately my country fluoride was banned. Oh, that's so cool. Cole says, because they have never been isolated and purified and introduced into a living subject and shown to cause disease. In fact, the opposite has been proven. Well, a virus can only be isolated so much because it's parasitic in nature, and viruses don't affect everybody the same way. Like if you have 2 people, this terrain might be healthier than this terrain, so the virus might not affect this person where it affects this person. I personally know genetic engineers who have made their own viruses and worked with them extensively, so I know for a fact that they're real. So yeah. David G says they add it to Sacramento drinking water. Even when you don't drink it, you get it from the shower. It's everywhere. Same in every major city. Actually, I think Portland doesn't fluoridate, and where else? Oh, up in Medford and Ashland area, they don't fluoridate as well. Obviously, they're not as big of cities. But yeah, I guess you did say major cities, so there's that specification. David says, oh yes, toilet water is now drinking water. New law. Disgusting. Yes, just absolutely. And then you'll have these farmers or something that'll be like, oh, well, we grow in manure, so what's the problem? If you grow and eat things out of manure, why not drink it too, right? Are you serious? David says that Christ got his healing powers through 40 days of fasting. Founder of Reiki fasted for weeks too. Fasting is the key to advanced healing powers. Yes, and that actually kind of reminded me of this from the Gospel of the Holy 12, where it says, in Christ, after that he had finished his study of the law, went down again into Egypt that he might learn of the wisdom of the Egyptians, even as Moses did. And going into the desert, he meditated and fasted and prayed and obtained the power of the holy name, by which he wrought many miracles. So that it says exactly what David says, right? He fasted and prayed, and then he got the power to bring about miracles. And for 7 years, he conversed with God face to face. Wow, how cool would that be? And he learned the language of the birds and of beasts, and the healing powers of trees and of herbs and of flowers, and of hidden secrets of precious stones. And he learned the motions of the sun and the moon, astronomy, and the powers of the letters and the mysteries of the square and the circle. And he returned and the transmutation of things and of forms and of numbers and of signs. That is what we would call witchcraft, using numbers and knowing the power of stones and herbs and all of this stuff. So I've said that many times, that Christ was a witch. The whole concept of laying your hands on somebody and healing them, that's Reiki. Just as David mentioned before, the founder of Reiki fasted as well. But yeah, I kind of remember from a young age, like wanting to be a white witch and like use this power for good. But obviously, growing up in mainstream Christianity, witchcraft is demonized, and they say, "Oh, there's a difference between miracles and magic," and there really isn't. Miracles are a form of magic. Obviously, there is dark magic and there is light magic. You need to and gray magic, I guess. But yeah, as soon as I basically put together that the Christ was a Reiki master, I was like, "Ooh, it's on! Let's go!" Like, how is knowing the power of herbs and stones evil? Like, obviously, you can use this knowledge for good or evil, but the knowledge in itself is not evil. So yeah. Kyle says, I watched a documentary a while ago of an overweight man who water fasted for 30 days. Wow. I'm sure that he lost a lot of weight. When you start to fast, your body will start to go into those old reserves and start to clean out all of the gunk and everything. As far as dry fasting goes, your body will turn a pound of fat into a liter of water. So someone who has a lot of fat to lose could go quite a long time with dry fasting. It's really amazing what the human body is capable of. We're told, oh, you can't survive for like 3 days without water or like 10 days without food. I don't even know what the actual numbers are because it's been so long since I even entertained these fallacies, because I'm in some dry fasting groups where people are going like 20 plus days dry fasting, proving that what these people say aren't true. These claims, the powers that be want to keep us, addicted and crushed down. So they give us all sorts of misinformation regarding diet. And I will mention, for those people that want to say, oh, veganism is a new world order diet, the powers that be have been telling you to eat flesh your whole life. The little food pyramid that has flesh on it, they told you to eat flesh in the first place. So why are you all of a sudden rebelling against new information? Like, you're not rebelling against, you're embracing the old lies and rejecting something that's new, when the powers that be try to control every side. They already controlled the flesh-eating side, and then when they know the awakening is going to happen, they start promoting veganism as well so that they can control both sides. And they also demonize veganism by having all of these, vegan celebrities and all this stuff, which I don't endorse any vegan celebrities. I don't appreciate vegan celebrities because they just give us a bad name. I understand that they do help in some ways to spread the message, but they're just not consistent. And it's really frustrating. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm probably going to get off of here relatively soon. The Israelite says the word lawless, warmonger, sorcery, idols, and dark magic that have power to move physical matter. Well, on the subject of moving physical matter, it's kind of interesting to study like levitation and how airplanes actually fly. The jet fuel hoax, where they're like basically charging you out the wazoo for this, and one of the reasons is because of so much fuel that they have to use. And then you look at like the diagram, the blueprints of the airplane, and it's like, where are these giant like reserves of fuel? Because they don't exist. The airplane really like needs some fuel to get going, and then once you start flying, levitation magic is what kicks in. Like, if you find the frequency of an object, you can actually get it to levitate, to get it to float. And that would be with moving too. The I don't want to ruin it, but the book that the Mount Shasta Mystic book that I have read the first chapter of, I still haven't finished the editing, but I will do that this week. It actually talks a little bit about moving matter with sound, so I'm not going to ruin that, but it's a really interesting topic that we should definitely discuss further in the future. Bob says, I'm fully engaged with learning all about quantum healing technologies, and there is no end of fascination. As many would say, it is magic. I know these advanced technologies that the powers that be have. Well, first of all, they've had all of the tech from the beginning. Like, they've never been in the dark. They've had Photoshop from day one. They have the iPhone 970, like, I'm just making up a number, but I'm saying they have the perfected version of all these technologies, and they just periodically release them to you so that, well, there's multiple reasons. It's like, oh, I gotta go get the new phone. It's like every few months people are going to get the new phone. It's like you're constantly giving them money, and the newer things that we have aren't lasting as long as the old ones. Like if you drop this, you can't really see when the light's on, but you might be able to see that my phone is cracked, right? If you drop this, it breaks. But remember those dinosaur phones, like those Nokia ones that you could drive over with a car basically, and they're fine. Like not really, but still, they were pretty much indestructible almost. And now everything is becoming obsolete on purpose. What is it? Planned obsolescence, or what is it called? Anyways, Bob says, watch for the phrase quantum entanglement. Okay, interesting. I know a lot of, like, with the quantum physics and stuff, there's a lot of deception, but I do believe in more advanced spiritual healing technologies, and we definitely should implement them in the future. With that being said, if you're not going to be eating the proper diet, like if you're going to go and eat animals, like I don't believe that you should have the access to something that's going to heal you. Like, why do you deserve to be healthy if you are killing animals and doing evil? You should be suffering the consequences of your actions and being sick and dying. I side with the animals. I really don't have a human-based perspective, and yeah, humans have a very limited perspective. They're like, oh no, we're being farmed, and like they don't care that they're farming every other species and causing harm to everybody else. They just want to focus on themselves, and it's not even righteous judgment. If you enslave others, you deserve to be enslaved. It's really as simple as that. If you kill animals, what do you think that you deserve? The hunters will be hunted. Those that enslave will be enslaved. It's really as simple as that. Karma, what you give, you get back. We've created this mess that we're in right now, and we can fix it so easily by just going vegan. If the majority of humans would go vegan right now, the world around us would change. People want to say, oh, what would happen if we stopped eating cows? They would take over the world. Humans are literally raping cows into existence. They're forcibly inseminating cows to keep this going. So if we stop doing that and we leave them alone, they're not going to be breeding like they are now. All of this is very unnatural, and their population would be normal if we left them alone. So yeah, we need to just change farms into sanctuaries, stop with the artificial breeding, all of the insemination, leave the animals alone. It's really that simple. Well, actually, I think that we shouldn't be leaving them alone. We should be doing what we can to make the world a better place for them. But I'm not gonna force other people to have the same moral convictions as me in that regards of like going above and beyond to try to make it up to the animals. The very least that you need to do is just to go vegan and leave them alone. So I want a world where like a cow paradise, and we could like put fencing and stuff on both sides of the road so that the animals can be free and there's no animals coming like jumping into the road. You can have like passageways underneath or like bridges over top for the animals to travel either way to get to the other side of the road. There's just so many things that we can implement to make this world a better place for them. So that is at the top priority of my list is making this world better for the innocents. It's not just the animal innocents, but the innocent human babies as well. Yeah, so we need to make a better world for all of the babies. Hopefully you are on board with me with that. As I've said before, the powers that be are very united in their goals and plans that are going against us, so we have to unite against them. And how can we be united if your future involves animals suffering and mine doesn't? They're just not compatible. We're not on the same team. So it's really hard. It's like you become a flat earther, and then you're like, you do find a big community that's nice, but then like you become a vegan, and then the community shrinks, and then you become like, you're not a mainstream Christian anymore, and then the community pool shrinks. It's like by time you're like into transvestigations and every other like truther thing, and like the pool of community and friends is like a drop of water. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating and sad. But like I was saying before, we all kind of long for community and connection with others, and it's hard to find. So I'm really, really happy that we have the internet, that we can connect with people all over the world and find those people that do agree with us. And hopefully, all of these people will come to Mount Shasta. We can take over the root chakra and purify the world. So that's my goal. The golden age starts here. And I'm super excited for it. I got the light at the end of the tunnel, and no matter how many obstacles and whatever comes in my way, it's like that is the goal and we need to go for it. So hopefully you have that mentality too, whether you're getting attacked by people on the internet, you're being shadow banned, all of this stuff, like press forward towards the goal, and eventually we will get there. Keep planting seeds, and then those seeds will grow. Bob says, I have new appreciation for quantum entanglement, which explains a lot, including the situation that there is nowhere we can hide. Interesting. I'm going to have to go and look into the quantum entanglement, what you're talking about deeper, and then we can potentially talk about it next week. Bob says David D says to Bob, there is nowhere to hide. They see everything we do. Well, there's two different things, right? Like, we're on the Truman Show, so everything that we do is being watched and judged by the spiritual world, but also those that are farming us. Like, I remember some people are trying to be like, oh, let's wear masks to throw off their facial recognition thing. It's like, first of all, you're tracked everywhere. Like, they have eyes everywhere. Like, there's nothing that we do that's like unseen. So yeah, there's nowhere to hide. Ultimately, we have to change the system from evil to good. Direct engagement. There is no other option. Yes. So yeah, I don't know how. Bob says, I wonder if there's a cloaking device. Well, I'm not sure if the cloaking device would work against like the Jinn or these other, more spiritually connected beings. I mean, we can't even see them, right? The Jinn are around us, and we can't see them. They're out of our limited human vision range. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about, and kind of probably nice that we don't have the eyes to see the spiritual world around us. I mean, just seeing the inverts who are real, like, flesh in front of us is scary enough. I don't know if I want to see what's actually behind the veil, because this world is like a room of dark souls, and over time, like, there is unfortunately this kind of a filtering effect where good souls come in and we experience this and we get crushed down, and especially with like religious programming of get out and don't come back, like reincarnate, go to heaven, all these different programming things. A lot of good souls don't want to come back in here because it's hell for us. Totally understandable, but at the same time, we have an obligation to come into this darkness to bear light. If we didn't do it, who would? If I didn't do what I'm doing, who would? So, I mean, I at least feel the weight of the world on my shoulders to do what I do, to keep coming back here, to keep doing it, to keep doing this over and over again, to try to fight for the mother, to make her a better world, to make this something that souls aren't being tortured and experiencing hell in, to make something that our Creator can be proud of. Like, do you think that our Creator is proud of this and the state of humanity? He's not. Bob says, I have a Faraday cage for my Android phone. Oh, interesting. I have read a little bit about that. I haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole with it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to research about the different frequencies and ways that our electronics are harming us. It's like everywhere we turn, there are different weapons of war that are coming after us to try to, I mean, even like the 5G, it helps to weaken your immune system, and then when you're in that weakened state, they can start sending out the viruses and get you sick. So it is all working together ultimately for their bigger purpose, and their bigger plan, which is the New World Order, controlling humans, crushing us down. So yeah, hopefully more humans will unite with us against that, and share our vision for future. If you're a Christian, if you study if you're a Bible person, Genesis 1 says that God created this perfect world, this perfect Garden of Eden, and he told them to eat of the raw herb and fruit bearing seed alone. So, why are you living in a way that is against God's perfect will? That's missing the mark. That's a sin. No one ate animals in the Garden of Eden. It only happened in the sinful world. So, put two and two together. All right. The Israelites says 144,000 with their feet on the moon. The heavenly saints return and remove the nuclear submarines. I don't believe in nukes, or having feet on the moon. You can't land on the moon. But yeah, a lot of these scare tactics, like, oh no, they've got their finger over the nuclear bomb that's going to kill us all. Like, they're constantly giving us fake things to fear. Oh no, an asteroid from space that's the size of 1,000 walnuts. Like, have you seen some of these posts? David's been posting some of them into the flat earth groups as like just the most ridiculous things. Like, I can't even think of something as stupid as they come up with. They're like, an asteroid the size of 10 walruses is barreling towards Earth. It's like, since when did we start measuring things in walruses and like random animals? It's just so stupid. But people are afraid of this. They take all of this in, but then they're not actually, worried about the real weapons, the real threats that are all around us. It's kind of interesting. Be scared of the boogeyman in the closet that doesn't exist, and don't mind the monster right in front of you, right? So, anyways, I have had a really good time. I actually want to get home because I'm in Mount Shasta right now, and the weather's not as bad, but in Weed is really coming down. So I'm gonna go home and be a hermit, and stay out of this cold weather. So, anyways, I really appreciate hanging out with you guys. I actually really love this exchange of energy and the feedback that you guys give me and all the great topics that we get to discuss. So I really, really appreciate that. And I hope to see you next week at the same time, same place. May God and the goddess bless you.